Hey there, and welcome to the Transparently Jordan podcast, where I'll be talking with a new guest each week, and we'll be covering topics in health, fitness, lifestyle, and so much more. So stick around and let's get into today's episode.
This is Radiant Voices Media.
So then you're always chasing this endless thing. But if I know that I'm going after these things, I'm trying really hard to make more time for friends and family while still also taking care of my physical and mental health. And I'm also trying to work on my business to make money so that my future family has a good life and I have a good life and my friends and family have a good life. Well, that's the thing. That's the man that I'm trying to be.
Why hello, dudes and dudettes of the interweb. Shout out AJ, the queen of YouTube reaction videos, for that intro that I borrowed. Welcome everybody to another episode. Life updates. There has been a lot that has gone on. I don't know if I did a life update during the last episode. I can't remember, to be honest, but if I already mentioned some of the stuff, sorry, but I'm going to mention it again. And if you don't give a fuck and you just tuned in to hear Jordan speak, other Jordan speak, then that is very fair. You can skip ahead to, 5-10 minutes, figure it out, where I stop babbling, and you can get into today's episode. Life updates. The first big one is I am now Australian. I shouldn't say I'm Australian, I'm still Canadian, but I got my residency. I am now permanent. I can stay in Australia. I can now breathe. I am so happy about that. I bought myself a brand new car. It has been such a big month. Big year, actually, with me switching jobs, with everything that's happened this year. It just feels like it's all kind of falling into place right now. They say, I don't know, it's funny. They say, 30s are the best years of your life. The 30s are the new 20s. I'm quite looking forward to being 30, I feel like just now life is getting started. My next episode is going to be the death of my 20s and everything that I learned through my 20s. So stick around for that episode. But yeah, a lot has happened, and I am not mentioning all of this to brag. I'm just mentioning this because I am so happy, and I'm quite proud of everything that's happened and everything that I've achieved in the last 6 years since being here in Australia. I think it's been 6 years. It's been 5, I think. I moved here in 2020, maybe it was. 2019, I can't remember. But it's been a hot minute, and I feel like things, like I was just mentioning, have just started to kind of fall into place. I always use this example all the time. Like, for all of you people that are listening and are like, oh, whatever, rolling your eyes, and are like, well, I'm in a hard place right now because this world is fucked up right now. Just if you are a Friends viewer, the show Friends, think back to when the show first started. Joey, Phoebe, Monica, Chandler, Rachel, Ross, all of them in the show were in their, early 20s, still trying to figure shit out, had nothing figured out, just trying to take it day by day. And it wasn't, when the show ended, all of the characters were in their, 30s. And just by living life and by relying on their friendships and by experiencing kind of the city and experiencing life, that's what kind of got them from A to B, basically. I think it's so important. We always try to rush into things. We always try to rush into being successful, into getting to what we want and getting what we want, basically. But things sometimes just naturally happen. I know that's how it happened for me. Yeah, I worked my fucking ass off, but they also just kind of things fell into place. The dominoes kind of started falling, and I am now here where I am. You know, I still have so much that I want to do and so many goals, but I've achieved so much in this last year, even running the 7 back-to-back marathons and, you know, pushing my body to do something like that and to do something that I never thought that I would be able to do. To, you know, getting my permanent residency, to switching jobs, to, you know, being the best physio that I can be, to buying a brand new car. Yeah, I am just like amazed on the things that have happened over the last 12 months. And this has been the furthest thing from an overnight success. You know, like there have been some very hard times, very hard days. And, you know, there were times where I thought, oh my God, I just need to pack up and move home back with mom and dad because I have no money, but because things are so hard. You know, I moved here once again to Australia with literally nothing. I was in negative funds because of my student loans and things like that. And, you know, things were quite difficult, but kind of I'm now seeing that light, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it has been a journey, and the journey has just started, but stay tuned for upcoming episode because yeah, now that I'm going to be 30 in less than 6 months, the death of my 20s episode coming soon. But let's get into today's episode. Today I am joined with another Jordan Checker. Jordan is from Adelaide. He is a personal trainer, entrepreneur. He does content creator, all around good guy. Good head on his shoulders. He is 24 years old, you know, has a bunch of goals that are coming up and a bunch of things that he is working towards and working on. He chats about all of that with me. Yeah, let's get into today's episode. Perfect. All right. Well, welcome, Jordan, to the podcast. Thanks for coming on. How are you going today?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's all right. Thanks for coming on. I know you have your own podcast, so it's good to have you on the other side right now.
I know it's a bit strange sitting here not leading the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, all right, just relax. Like
Yeah.
You don't have to lead the way and just enjoy.
Yeah. So what did you get up to this morning?
Had a few clients this morning, so still PTing, so that was enjoyable. Nice early start on a Saturday morning, get a gym session in, and then here we are.
And then here you are. Yeah. Do you have a busy rest of the day?
No, we'll relax after this.
Yeah.
Take a nice quiet night.
Well, the reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast, Jordan, because I know you have a lot of things going on right now. I know you have a lot of things coming up. So I kind of want to pick your brain and chat with you about your mindset and things like that. So you're from Adelaide. Maybe give us a bit of a rundown of who you are, kind of the things that you are doing currently, and yeah, where you're from and whatnot.
Yeah, so I mean, Adelaide's home and always will be in the foreseeable future, I guess, as well. And we were just talking off mic, obviously, as well, just about those circumstances for why you choose to live in a place. And I think, you know, it ticks all the boxes for me. It's close to the beach. It's easy to get places, friends, family, etc. You know, I think really important things, like we said, the distance to travel to work and whatnot. You know, it takes me 5 minutes to get to work. That helps that I get to work at 5:45 in the morning and no one else is on the road. But all those factors, I guess, into why I decided to live here still as well and see that continuing. But yeah, so obviously PT, like I said, podcast, working on building a nutrition app, and just really trying to, I'm only 24, so just, you know, trying to discover myself still as well. And along that journey, with my own branding and stuff online, try and share that and be, wanky term, be a bit of a role model, I guess, for who, you know, at 18-year-old me, what I wish was on the internet, rather than just like seeing, you know, the fake natty lifting athletes and stuff that kind of put me in a pretty bad space. And so, yeah, that's kind of the goal.
Cool. Awesome. Now tell me about growing up and whatnot. Like growing up, did you imagine yourself in the place that you were right now, or where did you want to be back then?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I feel like I've gone full circle. I, you know, left school went into personal training, started doing that and studying it, and then kind of put it on the back burner for a little bit. And I guess you get this perception online in social media. I was like, I'm going to become an online coach. I'm going to be a content creator. I'm going to be a Gymshark athlete, that sort of thing. And you quickly realize that's not going to happen necessarily. Like it could, it well and truly could. But in my circumstances, where I was and whatever, I think I have this good and bad ability to try and put myself in these massive, big situations, and I guess overreach sometimes as well, which I think is a big benefit of my mindset, but also something that you got to be careful with your time horizon sometimes as well. Like you can easily be like, I should be there then, and you're like, oh fuck, maybe that's actually a 10, 15, 20 year goal. It's not a 1 year goal when you're 19. So I really thought I was going to do that, tried the online coaching and had a quick wake up call that why is someone going to listen to a 19-year-old that doesn't really look like they lift at the moment? While I did have really good knowledge, Dad's a strength and conditioning coach, so that passed down. Like I had the knowledge, but at the end of the day, there's an element of marketing still, and people have to understand and see what they're buying into. So that led me to be like, all right, I'm going to go on the gym floor. Best decision ever because one, it's the best office in the world. I can't deny that at all. But also it teaches you so much more about how to approach clients. So now online clients, like I look at coaches that are online and haven't done any in-person stuff, and I go, how do you actually know how to solve a lot of these problems? Maybe there's situations where they do, but in terms of like trying to help someone with their technique or their mindset and all this, you almost have to be in the room with those people and spend thousands of hours, they say, like with that person to really understand who's in front of you. And that has now given me the ability in building the app that we spoke about there to understand who I'm talking to and to provide the best service possible and to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's an important concept there because I think working face-to-face with people give you these skills that you don't learn in uni, that you don't learn, from books and things like that. And it's always interesting to me because my profession, I think, being a physio, it's quite difficult to do it online. I know there are physios that do it, but I feel like when you have online businesses and online coaches and whatnot, I wonder what those people are like face to face. Like if things ever went 360, what if it's not going to happen, but what if social media collapsed tomorrow? Like what are those people going to do? And I think you going full circle into 360 and working face to face with people probably taught you some things that you didn't learn or you couldn't have learned just working online. So that's a very important thing, and it's almost turned 360 these days as well, because I remember for me growing up, I'm a millennial, and it was very, very much so, you go to high school, you go to university, and then you get a good job, whereas things aren't like that anymore. People are deciding not to go to university. People are deciding to start their own businesses and work online, and there's so much more opportunity here. And it's almost like it's the other way around, where people look down on people going to uni, but it's always interesting to me because I'm like, well, how do those people that don't work face to face with people learn? You know what I mean? So how do you think, or what skills do you think that you have now? I know you talked about communication and things like that, but what skills do you think that you have now will help you get into that online space or where you want to get to?
I think like I said, you have to be really understanding of who you're talking to. And so for me now, you start to niche down a lot more with that and understand the actual problems and the actual pain points. Like the problem of someone that wants to lose weight is not just weight loss. You ask that why 5 times, and it's because they want to feel more confident when they have no clothes on with their partner, or they want to be able to run around with their kids and they can't keep up with the footy because they're just too fat to be able to do so. Understanding there's so many more layers behind people's goals, and if you're stuck on someone sends you a message, I want to lose weight, it's really hard to create that. But I do think that the communication, one, I could barely hold a conversation with someone when I first, my first PT client, I was like, oh, fuck. And then you have to try and sell to that person. And then how long you been doing PT? You're like, oh, day one, don't listen to it, But and that understanding the ability to talk to adults, I think is different as well. When you're a teenager, you can't just, talk like you're with the boys all the time. You have to be able to turn that on and turn that off and choose your different tones and how you approach a conversation depending on the person that's in front of you. And then that is a very powerful skill, because when you're behind a screen, you don't have the ability necessarily to have this sort of in-person connection. So you have to be really good at those things. You have to be really good at trying to actually speak to that person, and you learn that from talking to those people in person.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you also need like a bit of confidence, right? When you
100%.
when you are in that profession, or when you're in any profession, working face to face or trying to sell or whatnot. Have you always, or did you always feel like you've had confidence, or is that something that you've struggled with? Do you feel a lack of confidence at all, or what's that like for you?
I think it's confidence in different elements at different times as well. Like, I don't think it's a blanket term of I'm confident, because there's plenty of situations I'll still walk in to be like, I'm not confident, but sitting here right now, I'm very confident. Go to the PT session, I'm very confident. You know, podcasts from my own guests, very confident. Doing the app and getting into business, there's situations where I'm not so confident. And you sit there and you go, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This is really intimidating, but that's also why it's so exciting. So I think it's you develop those skills, and you know, it's like anything, you got to do the reps, and you got to then learn from those reps, observe other people doing it as well. I think that's a part of it. Like, confidence is not a blanket term. You know, I think for a long time, like, say, take an example of, you know, me recording and creating content in the gym. You know, it really did. It was a step by step. Like, I didn't first day go into the gym, talk in front of a microphone with my mate holding the camera. That's a big step. So the first time when I was like 19, first video I ever did, my mate came in with me because I wasn't going to do it on my own. And he was like, Jordan, we're fucking filming. And it was like a Friday night at like 11 p.m. And like, we sat there and did like a core video and made this sick thing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then you build those steps. And then I got to the stage where I could put a camera and do it myself. And then eventually I got to the stage where someone could hold the camera. I'd be talking in a gym when there's people, and I was okay doing that. But also then was it a busy gym? Was it a quiet gym? And so developing those skills and that confidence comes with steps as well.
Yeah. What do you find yourself, what do you think you're anxious about the most? That can be anything, really. Like, what do you catch yourself on a weekly, daily basis, monthly basis? What's something that you feel quite anxious about?
Probably comes back to a point earlier of not being far enough along on the journey. And that journey could be anything. That could be, you know, business, relationship, health, whatever. You sometimes feel like I feel like there's, you know, people doing better than me. I should be doing that. Or like easily, like on a Sunday I'll go for a round of golf, and then I'll check social media and someone's like, you know, you got to work on a Sunday, and I'll look at that and I'll be like, oh fuck, and I start to feel anxious and guilty. I'm like, oh, maybe I should, but I don't know what that person's doing the rest of their life. And so things like that, like it's probably these fake thoughts in your head as well. We create these things, but they're very real when you're sitting with those thoughts. Like, our thoughts are our reality in that given time. That doesn't mean it is reality, but to me it is, to you it is. And so to be able to learn from that and grow through that and try and be more understanding of our thoughts, I think then can relieve us of some of that anxiety as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think you combat that on a daily, like what's some skills that you've tried to develop or tried to practice to help get you out of that anxiety?
I'll be honest, not great at it. Like, it is a big challenge, especially the fear of not being, and the anxiety of not being where I should be, I think is, but I also wonder whether that's just the small price you have to pay when you're looking to go that next level. I don't, through my conversations with people, I don't remember someone saying they didn't have that. And so I wonder whether it's just a part of the game. But it also isn't the most comforting feeling to have all the time. So I think it's if it's all the time, that's a bit of an issue. But if it's sometimes, it's like, well, it's probably because you care about what you're doing as well. It's probably because you want to do well with your life. It's probably because you want to provide for your future family, or you want to be there for your friends and whatever that, or your current family as well, I guess, so I don't see that as a whole bad thing. In terms of trying to combat it a little bit, for me, it massively is that disconnect from social media and understanding that's not real. So when you see someone doing X, Y, and Z at 18 and they're driving a freaking Lambo, you go, maybe it's not real, and so understanding that, and, even if it is, that's not going to change my journey. Now, these are all things I can say. That doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean I do it or I'm good at it either, because when you're in that, it's really hard to break out of that. So I think, getting into places as well that you feel comfortable in and you have that confidence. For me, it's going to the gym, going for a walk, or doing some work that I know I'm very good at. It's not maybe doing those big, scary tasks in that time. It starts to tick some boxes, and that brings me back into this cycle of being like, no, you're doing well. And that's the momentum that you roll with as well.
Yeah. What kind of things are you doing for yourself usually? I know you mentioned you like to golf and things like that, but what kind of things are you doing for you outside of business and outside of work and whatnot?
Yeah, so I've picked up in the last, probably about 4 or 5 months now, started doing jiu-jitsu. That's been a massive change. Like the golf, it's in a slightly different way. You go out there, it's 2 hours, I can't touch my phone. So that's a full disconnect, and that's really good. But at the same time, then when you go and leave the class, it's kind of like, it's back to being on my phone still. Like those things are right there as well. Golf, that's good time with friends. It's out in nature. For me, nature's a big one. And so I think even though I'm a PT, I'm on my feet and I have the best office in the world, it's still indoors. And I think we forget to do this so much. Luckily, we live in a place like Adelaide where you do have so much nature, so close, so easy, so accessible. But you still forget to use it sometimes. And so I need to force myself to actually stop and go do that. Some people struggle with the reverse. They need to force themselves to do something. I actually have to force myself to stop because of that fear, I think, as well. So then, I have to be like, no, go for a walk, take the dog, go to the beach, play golf, do those sort of things, get outdoors, because we know how important fresh air, sunshine is for our health, mentally and physically. So they're some of the disconnects that I try and get in the week.
Yeah. Do you find, because, you're wanting to get into the social media space and the content space, and you are in it, you're creating an app and whatnot, do you find that puts you on social media more, scrolling, comparing, doing things like that,
Definitely.
or less?
Definitely more. Yeah. And I think it's easy to use it as an excuse of being like, I'm just doing some market research or whatever. I'm like, no, you're not. You're wasting your time. Yeah. And it's that endless scroll. But at the same time, in that, sometimes you scroll and I'll see like a clip of a podcast and I'm like, that's fucking awesome. And I'll send it to my video editor and be like, do you reckon we could try and tweak? So then, I wonder whether it's like moments like that then give me the excuse that it's okay to spend a bit more time on my phone. So it's just trying to navigate that. Like it's a powerful tool and it's very helpful, and it's good to learn what's going on, the trends, I guess, all those sort of things, whatever it may be. But at the same time, I definitely need to try and spend a little less time on it as well.
Okay. All right. Are you, what kind of things do you do? Let's say, do you do like first thing in the morning when you wake up? What's your morning routine? Because I think that's quite interesting. I find that interesting, asking people.
I'd call it a lack of routine. Okay. First client's at 6 o'clock, so I'm not, going for a beach walk. I'm not having a sauna and an ice bath. Yeah. It's straight in, but, alarm goes off at about 5, snooze it 3 times, wake up at about 5:13. Generally, it comes to about pretty consistently that time. I go straight out, I have breakfast, Weet-Bix, yogurt, milk, nice and simple. I like the taste of it. It works for me. Someone's going to be like, oh, this, that. And I'm like, good on you. You do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. I'll make my coffee. Don't drink that straight away. I try and wait until I get to work just so I can delay that a little bit. Have my electrolyte drink first thing after eating, get changed, get ready, go. Like that's really, I think it's like, Alex Hormozy sort of thing, just like get into the work as quickly as possible. Rather than thinking and prepping to do the thing, just do the thing. And that is helpful. But at the same time, I think being realistic, if I wasn't PTing and didn't have a client at 6 o'clock, I'm not all fully motivated in the mornings. My motivation comes at nighttime, which is strange. Like it's as soon as the sun comes down, it's really weird. I'm just like, bang, concentration. But it also comes with struggling to then sleep as well. So yeah. Not the world's best morning routine, but at the end of the day, it also works because I can get into work straight away.
Yeah, because that was my next question is, do you find yourself more of an evening? Because, it's either morning or evening. Some people switch off in the evening. Some people switch on in the morning. So your evening, how do you find, or do you find, I should say, a struggle with, let's say, your goals, trying to get your things done in the evening, but then still getting sleep and then waking up for work, and does things spiral or how do you manage that?
I don't. I survive. I actually stopped wearing my Whoop band because it started to piss me off because it was telling me my sleep was on average like 6 hours 20, and I was like, I get it, I don't sleep. Stop fucking telling me. So I got rid of that thing just purely because I'm like, I know I don't sleep enough. And there's definitely things I could do. I'm probably still on my phone a little bit late. I'm probably doing work too late. But like you said, it's hard to stop working when you just feel like you hit your flow at night time. So when you start to flow into it, but it's when you should be starting to get to bed. And so, if someone's like, oh, you'll get used to it. I'm like, I've PT'd for 5 years. I'm not used to it. Like waking up at 5, like it just, so I know like when, that is going to be something that I'll have the opportunity to do in the future, is to bias my days more to the evenings. I don't have that privilege right now because I just got to work. Like I got to pay for everything that I'm working on, the trips interstate. I got to pay for the app. Like every dollar I make, I pretty well reinvest into what I'm doing. That's just the cost you have to do to get where I want to be. So I'll do it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the day comes where I can be like, I don't have to wake up at 5 anymore. I have to. Maybe I can out of choice, and that might change how it feels, I guess, doing that. So it's definitely challenging, and something I'm trying to navigate, and I'm becoming more aware of it now. Again, though, it doesn't mean it solves itself straight away.
Yeah. What's the plan? Because I always find this question interesting as well, and asking people, who have their own businesses and who have had, I shouldn't say a normal job because all jobs are normal these days, but what's the plan? Let's say, you transition, you start the app, you're able to do these 5 a.m. sessions less often. Do you have like a transition over to one from the other, like a plan in motion right now, or how do you think that's going to work for you?
To be honest, my mind isn't quite there yet. Like
Okay,
it's, I'm not seeing that because, we haven't launched yet. We're still in this phase where we have to start beginning to test with users and things like that. Now I'd love to say we launch and bang, money's flowing in. It's perfect. It's not realistic. It's probably not. If I was an influencer with 150,000 followers, I could expect that. But someone that has just over 4, you go, no, I can't expect that. So you have to be realistic with yourself. And so I see myself still PTing for a while. At the same time, like I almost don't want to get rid of PT. It's more I just maybe will do it a little bit less. For that transition period. Obviously, if I want to grow the business into my vision for it and what I see it being, I'm going to have to stop PTing. That's not going to be possible time-wise. But I also I love training my clients. Like, sure, there's a few that I want to strangle from time to time, and they probably know who they are. But, it would probably be not doing the 6 a.m. session, maybe starting at 7, then not going as late, pulling it off a little bit earlier, and just having that shorter time frame with it, not doing the Saturdays or whatever, or maybe not doing a Friday, whatever, like that, just reduction of volume in that transition period. But it is massively down to, is the cash flowing? Because if it's not, you just can't do it. And that's why I've spoken with a lot of people in that business space, and unless you've got that investor or your parents backing you or whatever it is, like not, someone like in this scenario, like, I'm fully funding this myself off of everything I've earned. I've had no one give me $1 for it. I've got to keep my 9 to 5, call it that. It's not 9 to 5 hours, but I got to keep it because that's where the cash comes from to do what I'm doing. Yeah. Otherwise it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And because that's quite a important thing. I think a lot of the times people bite that bullet too early. They leave their 9 to 5 before, their side hustle is taken afloat or whatnot. And it's a hard thing, I think, and it's quite a daunting thing to make that shift. And I guess to have that secure 9 to 5 and then have this thing that might not be as secure. But what kind of things do you think you're preparing for, if anything, when making that switch?
It's probably trying to, you can try and see what that'll look like. I can try and envision it. I'm very grateful that I do have an advisor assisting me with a few things, and so I'm sure she'll be able to help me with that transition period as well when the time comes. I think a lot of it would, from the mental transition as well, and maybe even not just from a business point of view, from the physical and all these sort of things, the transition will actually be quite a challenge in the fact of I'm probably going to find myself sitting at a desk more often. I won't be on my feet PTing. So that's going to change my diet. That's going to change how I exercise. That's going to change whether I have to be more deliberate with my steps. I'm very lucky right now. I don't really have to think about what I'm eating. I say lucky. I've done that for a long time. I tracked my calories for like 2 years straight religiously, even didn't really want to eat out too much and do all those things. So I gained this great awareness of what food is and what's in food. So that helps as well. But that's going to change, and when I can train and all these sort of things. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge in a transition when the time comes, will be to that routine in the lifestyle and being more sedentary. And it's hard because I've battled with this, because I've never wanted to work an office job, but now I've started to build something that's probably going to land me in an office more often. Maybe that's the price to pay. I don't know. But also maybe there's a way that it doesn't have to be sitting at a desk all the time. Like, I guess, content has to be made. So maybe I'm out on the road and I'm helping film content and doing all those things. I just don't want to be the person that builds this business and sits back and does nothing. I want to be involved. So hopefully being involved means doing that, running meetings, doing all those sort of things that's not just glued to a desk 24/7, and having that understanding that people don't really probably enjoy that. So trying maybe, where possible, create a culture that allows for some of that as well.
Yeah. So to those, I guess, 18-year-olds that are listening, or the people that are in that mindset, want to start creating something, want to start doing something, how did you learn to start all of this, or to do all of this? Because it's not easy to make these steps, to create an app, to build a personal brand and whatnot. Where did it start for you? How did it start for you? And where did you kind of learn all of that?
Yeah, so it definitely still stemmed from that initial, like, I saw these Gymshark athletes. I wanted to be one of them. So that's where the content creation idea came from. I've never until I was influenced by maybe some friends, I didn't really have this full business mindset. But then, that being said, I look back and it's pretty crazy. I would have been year 10, I reckon. Me and a mate started a clothing brand. And just saying that, I was, that's wanky. Everyone says, every fucking person that starts a business says, I was selling lemons and fucking whatever. I'm like, no. But like, I know it was fun, but at that stage, I enjoyed graphic design. I was studying that at school, and so me and a mate enjoyed making graphics for T-shirts, and we were just like, oh, we may as well sell these things, and we sold it to friends and whatever. And so I guess there was that there within us. We just didn't have an entrepreneurial word to put with it. Now we label anything as that. We didn't see it as that. We didn't think of it as that at the time. We were just having some fun, made no money, but it was enjoyable. And so that probably then progressed in. My best mate was always trying to do some things here, and it kind of opened my eyes to, I was like, oh, what's this whole, online business thing? And then you get into circles and dudes are doing e-commerce and they're selling all this stuff. And then so I tried to do some drop shipping, and that was one of the full circle moments. I was like, this is not fulfilling at all. I don't want to do this, but I learned some great skills about, how to set up a website, how to do all these things, and those are skills now that I'm using weekly. But again, that pulled me back to fitness. I was like, that's not me. Fitness is me. But these skills are now very beneficial as well. So I was just stacking skills over time. I'm very grateful that, from dad's strength and conditioning coach, sisters played soccer for Australia. Mum's a very hard worker as well, and played netball when she was younger. And so being around that and the mindset that is required, especially of what my sister achieved, that rubs off on you, and you see that, and the conversations that dad would have, out at sport training and whatever it was, like that became a big mold for, it wasn't necessarily, for early days, I always thought I was going to be an athlete. That was what I was going to do. Then it didn't happen. But the same mindset and the same skills, work in business and work in life. And so that has carried me into just being very curious about various things. And it so happens that now building an app, I'm like, that seems like just the best option for me.
Yeah, for sure. What do you know now, I guess? You're 24? Yeah. What do you know now, I guess, that you feel you didn't know when you were 20, let's say? I think the 20s are even the first 25, 26 years are quite interesting, because you're always evolving. You're always trying to get to that next stage. What do you think you know now that you didn't 3-4 years ago?
Lots.
It's a loaded one, isn't
Lots.
it?
How long we got? I guess from a, not a specific knowledge thing. Sure, we all gain extra knowledge over that time period as well. I think a big part of it also was like just understanding of the world a little bit more, actually. And you live in your bubble, especially Adelaide. You know what it's like being here now as well. Like it is a bit of a big country town. Like, you don't really see much beyond the borders for a while there when you're growing up. So I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, I'll just, stay in Adelaide, do all these things. Now, I still have that sort of mindset, but I'm much more curious about the external world and the broader world and things like that. And I think one of the big things is now you used to be able to just easily find time for friends. Now you have to like really grind to find time for friends. And so that's actually been a really hard thing for me, is because you try and pursue all these things. I listen to all that stuff online. You have to cut some friends out. You have to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't regret neglecting some of my friends for a while there, because I'm the person I am today because of that. That is how it is. But I have also learned that that's a really important part of life. And I did push that to the side for a while, and I'm glad that they're still happy to be my friends still, and I didn't lose my best mates because of that, because I very easily could have. And so that's probably a big lesson. I'm like, yes, you got to put your head down. Yes, you got to work hard. Yes, you got to pull those 14-hour days, pull those 7 days a week work sometimes, but friendship, like, you can't break that. That's the best feeling in the world. Like, I am never happier than when I'm with my friends. Never. Like, I mean, I don't drive a fucking Lambo. I don't have all that, material success or financial success. So, I'm sure that'll come with some different feelings. But anyone knows that feeling when you're with your mates, you're chatting shit, you're having a laugh, like, and you could be doing nothing exciting. Nothing exciting. Like sitting on a couch like this, and you're just like, this is the best fucking time ever.
Making some of the best memories, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's actually my biggest knowledge point, is that, like, soak that up. And because you don't actually think that, like, when you're younger, you're like, it'll be like this forever. It's not. Like, life happens, and none of my friends have kids or anything like that either. So that's going to add another layer of how the hell am I supposed to see this person when they've got a kid? So that's going to be harder again. And so just really soak that up and put the effort in with your friends and family. But I think, especially friends for me, that's really important part of my life, and mental health.
How do you try and find that balance with everything that you're trying to work on, and balancing friendships, balancing, your own personal health and fitness and your own goals in that regard? How do you balance it all?
I think you have the ability to be able to combine some things together, for a long time. So I stopped drinking alcohol, and that's where I lost friends. Turns out I didn't lose them. We just started hanging out in different situations. We went for a coffee and a walk, because that's what I did on a Sunday morning. And I'm not saying do as I want to do as I want to do. No, but I'm like, I'm going for a coffee. Do you want to join? And they're like, yeah, who doesn't want to go for a coffee and a beach walk? Now I play golf with my mates. I chat some shit. That's time that I spend with them as well. Go to the gym and train with a friend. These are all situations where you can do those things together. That being said, I still play PlayStation from time to time. Like on the weekends, tonight, I'm probably going to sit on my ass and play PlayStation for a few hours with my mates, chatting shit, having a wild time. They're the sort of times where you go, this is just euphoric. Like, you have this amazing feeling. So I don't want to be one of those guys that shits on all those sort of things, because I think they're an important aspect of life. And for young people growing up, you still do learn skills from things like video games, whether that's communication, whether that's problem solving, whatever it is. There's still a lot to learn from those. You can make a lot of money out of it as well, but I think, again, like with sport, get the reality check. Are you actually going to be able to have a career out of that? If not, okay, you probably can't spend 12 hours a day on that thing. But if it is, then it's no different to any other job. You can put your heart and soul into that. If you want to be a professional video gamer or a video editor, whatever it is, I see that now as it's no different to any other job. Like, if that's a career potential, but again, get real with yourself. But I think too many people demonize those sort of things, because we speak in massive extremes. Now, maybe this backfires on me, that I have this amount of flexibility and want to do these things. Maybe that becomes a thing I have to change when the business starts to change, pivot, take off. I don't know, but I'm just speaking from my current experience, and I've got to where I am, being able to still do those things.
Yeah, I think being adaptable, being flexible is quite important. And I think when it comes to making time and whatnot, like, anybody is going to make time for the people that they want to, like, you could be the busiest person in the world, but if you want to make time for somebody, you will. And I think that's a very important thing. And that's not to diss people who, haven't seen me, for example, for years or whatnot. It's not that I'm not making time for you or whatnot. It's just, I think you can always, anybody that's working on your goals, you can always make time for something and for you, and that's quite important, because people forget that all the time, working on your goals and working on this and this. What kind of things do you think you worry about quite often. Is there anything that, I know we talked about the anxiety side of things, but is there anything in life, or is there anything in business, or anything with your personal health or fitness or whatnot that you constantly worry about or struggle with?
I don't worry about like my health as per se, because I'm very on top of it. I eat a good diet. I train, 6 times a week, balance between gym and jiu-jitsu. I'm on my feet at work. I go play golf, like physical health, not a problem. Mentally, the challenge again, that fear. I've been given this amazing opportunity in a country like Australia, in a place like Adelaide, and my parents have given me all these opportunities. I would hate to waste them. And so that does worry me, but also at the same time, it doesn't now, because I'm not wasting them. I'm pursuing things every day. I'm going after things. And so I'm making the most of those opportunities. So I don't think I'm led with much worry apart from like, am I going to create a good future for my future family? Am I being a good friend? Am I being a good family member? Both of those two things, I went, no, I probably wasn't for a little bit there, especially friends, but even now family. Like I'm trying to learn to put a bit more effort in. I can admit that I'm not the best at that, but it starts by understanding. And so I don't want to lose family because I'm always like, no, I just got to work. But that's hard. And it's hard to find that balance in there as well. But I definitely do worry about like not doing what I'm capable of and reaching what I'm capable of. But I think I just need to understand, and like people listening understand, like it's a much bigger time frame than you actually think.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? Like you can plan 5 years and it might be 10 years. Like you just don't know sometimes, really. Do you think, or do you have this fear of failure ever? Do you catch yourself sometimes thinking about that? Or is that something that you try to just not think about? Because sometimes that can be quite negative as well. Put your mindset very, very badly, really.
Yeah, I think that kind of ties in a little bit with the anxiety and the worry of not working and it not working. But then at the same time, like I have this weird, I don't know, I have this theory that you have to be extremely naive when you're pursuing these things, because if you actually knew what it would take, you probably wouldn't do it. And like looking back at even the last 12 months, like I started this whole app development journey probably about 18 months ago now. I thought I would have had it up and running easily by now. Wake up call, not fucking that quick. Sure, if you had way more money and knowledge and resources, maybe, but like on the path that I took, it didn't happen. So, probably more. I don't know. Like I'm naive. I think that's powerful, and whenever I feel like it may not work, I kind of just go, no, but it will. Like it actually will, because it might not straight away. I might launch and in January or whatever, and get 2 users. I'm like, okay. We've got a product, figure out how to get the users now. Why is it not working? What can we do better? Is it the product? Is it the marketing? Is it we're just not getting in front of people? I know the product is something that will be beneficial, but there's always more layers to it as well as to what people are actually looking for. Is it because whatever else is out there already on the market, people really want that more? Why do they want that more? Is it because, that's more attractive because, the dude that's selling it is someone that they really resonate with versus me or versus our branding and whatever. So it's going to work. Like it genuinely, that's how I see it. And I know that sounds a bit weird to some people, but I'm like, I will continue to navigate it and find a way and it will be fine.
Yeah, that's awesome, really, because fear of failure is, I don't know, it's, some people look at it and some people think, oh, I can't put it in my mind at all, because then, those things are going to come to light and shed some light. Whereas some people really embrace that fear of failure and, oh, I'm not going to do it. I think it's, you can't really go one way or the other way. It just depends on you as an individual and how you want to go about things. What's something, before we get into the app and what it is, kind of what you're trying to get out of it and what you want to get out of it, what's something that you've learned from this experience creating this product and creating this thing that you're planning on putting out in the world?
Well, I really learned that I don't know as much as I think.
Okay. Yeah.
You kind of going like, I can do this. Don't worry. Yeah. That naivety again. And I was like, holy shit, there's a lot more to this than I thought. But that's also the cool part about it, is because you can listen to someone tell you it's on a bigger time frame, it's going to take longer, it's going to be harder and all this. You'll be like, yeah, no worries, mate. And then you do it and you're like, oh, No, it actually is. Like, your perception of how much harder it is, how much longer it might take, and the effort required, and the road bumps or the issues you're going to run to, you can't quite fathom them until you're in it. And so, yeah, like, that time frame thing is big. It's real. It's longer than I expected. But it's also, I think, because I've humbly done it smart, I've kept my 9 to 5. I'm funding it that way. As much as sometimes I look at the bank account and you're like, fuck, it would be nice if this thing started to make some money quickly. I'm not too stressed on that front. So the fact that it's taking a little bit longer and all those sort of things, like, you can kind of be like, that's all right. This is the timeline. This is what it will take. And that's sometimes hard, because you want, I speak with the developers and I want the thing to be ready right now. And it's like, this doesn't work like that. Like, these things take time to build, just like building a house. You can't, buy and sign a grant or sign a contract with someone and the next day the house is built. It doesn't work like that. Like, it takes time. And I was not aware, because I'd not been in the tech industry, I was not aware of the time that it took to build these things. You see the finished product, you don't see what goes into it. And so now I'm like, a little bit more than I expected.
Yeah, okay. And tell us about the app. Tell us, what you can and what you want to about what the app is, what you're going to try and get out of it, what people can get out of it.
Yeah, so my big thing, I always, very early on PTing, had this understanding. I was like, after the first few sessions with clients, I was like, fitness is not people's whole lives. And it doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be. It's a part of their life. They're not a fitness influencer. They're not a bodybuilder. They're not a bikini model. That's not, well, at least the people I'm talking to weren't. The Gen Pop people in the gym, that's not who I was talking to. And so it's understanding, like, how can we help you fit fitness into your life? And so at this stage, we're starting with nutrition, and it's going to come in the form of, like, meal plans, adaptive targets based on your progress and all these sort of things, running in the back end. So it ultimately becomes like a nutritionist in your pocket. Sure, some of these things, similar things exist, but I've kind of like looked at what is out there and molded a few things together. Like, it's not tracking calories, it's done for you. That's the whole thing. It's like, I want to make this as streamlined, as easy as possible. The changes when you're making progress should be adapted for you. The changes when you're not making progress should be adapted for you. So you don't really have to do the thinking. Here's what to eat, do it. And if you don't like the meal, you can swap it out. You can do all that. You can save, all those small fancy features that, at the end of the day, just help make the experience better. But that's stage 1, and stage 2 will be the training side of things in these moving forward. But I just saw that the nutrition plays such a huge role, and any clients that I've not seen the results with that they were maybe hoping for was because of a nutritional issue. And so, writing a meal plan is a pain in the ass, and I'm not going to do it, because also for the time it takes and then the cost it's going to cost them to do that one-on-one, I'm like, it's not many people are interested in that. A lot of people don't want to count their calories. Even though it works well. And it's like, so I was like, there has to be a way to do this. And so it just seemed like the best option to start with, but definitely just going to keep layering. And I don't know what the business will turn into. In my head, I always have this little saying that I tell myself, it's like, it's going to be the Apple of fitness sort of thing. But to me, I don't see that as it's going to be like some big tech company with phones and stuff. That's not how I see it. It's just, we have lots of different products that solve lots of different problems, all under the health and fitness banner. Maybe that turns into frozen meals. Maybe that turns into supplements. Maybe it's gyms. Maybe it's, I don't know. It could be anything. I don't know what the world will look like in 5-10 years anyway. So, but I just want us to be that adaptable fitness brand that can help to solve a lot of problems. And that sounds massive, and it is massive. But like I said, I'm understanding that's I call it my 100-year plan. Like, I'm not here to do this in 1 year. This is my life sort of project.
Yeah. Okay. That was my question to you. Is this something that you want to continue ongoing longer term?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can never know until you're in it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people build businesses to then try and exit for a big chunk of money, which is, very wise to do. It'll be set up in the way that could happen. People would have seen like Toby Pierce, the Sweat app. They sold for a lot and they bought it back, but they sold for a lot. So I don't want it to be not possible that happens, because maybe in 15 years I look and I'm like, that's me done. Like, it's time for me to move on in some capacity. But maybe it's not. Like, it could be something that I then pass down to my kids, and they can start to run if they want to as well. I don't know. Right now, I don't see me wanting to get out of it. I see me wanting to just continue to grow, to solve more problems for, people with their health and fitness.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Now, I think it's pretty admirable. Like, people listening, again, you said at the beginning, you want to be that role model for the 18-year-olds, for yourself when you were 18. You sound like you have a good head on your shoulders and quite confident. You have all of these goals and this ambition and whatnot. How do you see yourself? How do you try and present yourself as a person? And how do you think that you see yourself really?
It's definitely improved a lot. Like I said, like those early days, I looked at myself and I was like, yeah, pretty shit. Like you do have those thoughts. You're like, but that's the comparison again. But also it's just, I think, I don't know if you had similar feelings, when you were at that age, but it's kind of like, that's probably just a part of being 18. You go, I don't know what the fuck I am. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. That's scary, but also now looking back, I'm like, it's actually quite exciting. But when you're in it, it feels like a heap of shit. You feel like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders. But then the more you get a little bit older, like you said, like as you go through your 20s, the more you're like, these things I'm thinking about and worrying about, they're not actually real worries. Like they're not that bad, and it's getting a little bit better. But you got to kind of go through that, I think, as well sometimes. Like it doesn't solve itself. Currently, I can look in the mirror and be like, sorry, rewind a little bit. I had a mate and we were talking, and he said, I want to be the 1% man. And I was like, interesting. Okay. What's the 1% man? He told me, what he wants to do. And I'm like, cool. Are you doing that thing? Are you trying to do that thing? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, well, that is the 1% man. Like that's the 1% man, or being the man that you want to be in the future, or the person you want to be in the future. For any of the women listening, it's the same sort of theory. Like it's not getting to that point that makes you that person necessarily. It's the fact that you're actually pursuing it in the first place. Because when you get there, I guarantee you're going to set a new goal. So then you're always chasing this endless thing. But if I know that I'm going after these things, I'm trying really hard to make more time for friends and family while still also taking care of my physical and mental health. And I'm also trying to work on my business to make money so that my future family has a good life and I have a good life and my friends and family have a good life. Well, that's the thing. That's the man that I'm trying to be. And everything else will fall into place as a result of those actions. And so I think that even just saying it to him also created this paradigm shift in me and confirmed. I was like, oh, I'm also doing that, which is really nice to feel, because you can feel pretty empty, and like going out and doing this business stuff is really lonely. That's the thing. I don't think people talk about that. I spend a lot of time behind a desk on my own, not talking to anyone, locked up at my house. It sounds like I'm on bloody house arrest, but not quite. It almost is, and so that's another element. It's like the importance of friends and family, and that is that if you're on your own all the time, you got to go see people. You got to do that. So, it's an interesting situation to be in, but it's definitely, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, awesome. And again, like the early 20s, you're trying to find yourself. You're trying to grow. You're trying to create and whatnot. And I think it's something that you don't really know, what the future holds until things kind of get swung at you and things like that, right? So it's a loaded question, and it's always a difficult question for people to answer, I think, because even myself, I'm going to be 30 years old in March, and I think back to the last 7 years that I've been here in Australia, and things 7 years ago were completely 360 different than what they are now, going to be a 30-year-old. And like things didn't really happen the way that I thought that they would happen. Things kind of went left, right. I had some of the worst years of my life, some of the best years of my life, and you just don't really know. So it's hard to plan, and it's hard to foresee what's going to happen in the future. And it's,
you can't, can you? Like
no, exactly.
Look at the pandemic.
Yeah.
How the fuck were we supposed to know that?
Yeah.
And I think that's being vulnerable and being accepting of the world around us sometimes as well. Is okay. Like roll with the punches. Yeah. We don't have to predict the next big thing. Like, you don't have to find the next crypto or whatever it is. Like that's not how life works. Like it's not this big lottery. It's not this big, pay $5 and then you become a millionaire because you got lucky and you found the thing. It's like, no, like you got to just keep pushing, keep trying, and keep working on yourself and building these skills and stacking skills and trying new things. And then you're like, I did like that, I didn't like that. And then that's where you start to discover who you are and what you want to do with your life. And that could completely change in the future as well. Like, I think being accepting and, yeah, I think vulnerable is a good word to go with that, like it a little bit as well. And then once you've got that vulnerability, then attacking.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think it's something that we all think about, and especially the 18, 19-year-olds that are graduating high school or, deciding, do I want to go to uni? Do I want to do this and that? Like thinking about the future and thinking about what you want to do and where you want to be in 10 years. It's something that you just can't do. And it's something that I tell people all the time. Like when I was 19 years old, never imagined I'd be the other side of the world, doing what I'm doing now. But it's just the way that things happen and the way that things kind of spanned out to be. Jordan, what you're developing the app and you have this coming out, but what's the 5-year goal? What's the 10-year goal? Do you set those kind of things, or do you not think that far ahead?
Like I said, like with the vision and the stuff that I want to implement, I know I roughly know what I want to do, and that puts me on, because I think we need it's like with dieting, it's like with training, you need some guidelines, but at the end of the day, it's going to change. It's got to be flexible as well. So I've got these, I guess, guardrails that I can see this rough vision. They're pretty broad guardrails and the things that I want to try and do. I'm a little bit more niche and understanding of like what does the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months even look like, but I don't necessarily put times to those things, because time and time again, I've realized I was very wrong with my timelines. And so I don't want that stress. I think that stress of putting a timeline on some things in the short term can be really good. You got a project you got to get done, you got a uni assignment you got to get done, you got a work, thing you got to get done. Yeah, put some timelines on, get it done, because if you tell yourself it has to be done at this date, or your boss tells you it has to be done at that date, it's probably going to get done at that date, or at least close to. But over that long time frame, that's really hard to do. And I used to try to do it, and I was so far off 99% of the time. So I put those goals in place, the things I believe I'm going to want to do, but I don't put a timeline with it. And luckily for me, I don't have an issue with working hard and putting my head down and doing it. So I don't need that pressure of that long timeline. And I think that's where a lot of my issues and fears came from, is because, when you're 20 and you go, at 22, I'm going to have a business that's doing this, and I'm going to be driving this car, and then you get to 22 and I still drive a shitbox and I'm barely making any money, and you go, I'm a failure. But if I now had that understanding that drag out the timelines or don't put a timeline on it, I'm like, I probably wouldn't have beat myself up so much about it, because I would have been like, I'm getting there. Like maybe I thought it might be a little bit quicker, but I can tell I'm on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like I just said, like, things take time, you just don't know what's going to happen. And I think it's so easy these days, and it's so easy to sit here and say, don't worry about the future and whatnot, because you're scrolling through TikTok, like you were saying in the past, and you're seeing 20-year-olds driving these, fancy cars, taking these trips and whatnot. But, you just need to be patient. You just need to wait, because things will fall in place if you put in the work, if you do what you need to, do and what you want to do. I'm a big believer that things will kind of come together. It might be in 5 years, it might be in 10 years. Do you have anybody that you look up to, or do you have anybody that you follow that you, that you really, really track and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, there's people that I take inspiration from.
Yeah.
I've said this plenty of times before, and people are going to hate me for saying it again, but I don't hold anyone on a pedestal. Not Elon Musk, not Joe Rogan, not anyone. Like, whoever it is, or, not LeBron James. I don't know. Like, you take inspiration from these people. They're great. They work hard and they do lots, but they're human. Yeah. It doesn't mean I can't achieve some things that they've done, I think. But that also comes from the belief that you are able to do things and you have this potential. And so you have to believe and believe in yourself to not look at these people like they're some freaks. They've done some freaky things, but they're not freaks. Like, that doesn't mean they also didn't have genetic advantages when they were born. LeBron's a big fucking human being. I'm not going to be the basketballer he would be. But that doesn't mean I couldn't have been an NBA player if that's what I wanted and I started training when I was 5. That, business, it doesn't, just because Elon Musk has done everything he's done, whatever, it doesn't mean that it's impossible for someone like me to build a big business as well. I take a lot of inspiration from like a Ben Francis, Gymshark, really resonating with him, like making those singlets when he first did in the garage. That's like me sitting behind the desk right now on my own. That's kind of that's that. I see that parallel journey there as well. And I go, well, he had no fucking idea what he was doing, so why can't I do the same thing? I do take inspiration from someone like an Elon Musk and see his ability to work so much. That doesn't mean I want to be him. But another thing, Elon, he plays video games as well. Like he's like one of the best in the world at one of the games he plays. I don't know exactly. And you go, oh my God, you can do these things. So that like didn't inspire me, but it helped me to understand that even someone that is the richest man in the world, I guess the Western world, probably we don't know the wealth of some of the other people in the world, but you go, okay, well, he works a lot, he does all this stuff, and he still plays a video game. Yeah. He has loads of kids. And so it's people like that, but also at the same time, like, the closer people that you have around you, like it's what my parents were able to do for me, and I want to reciprocate that for my future family. Like I take a lot of inspiration from how much my parents worked to find work, like it's whether it was in the house or whether it was getting money. They both worked very hard in different ways, seeing what my sister did, all that. So that's on a closer sense. I'm very lucky to have that. But then there's definitely those people out there that have done things similar and on the similar journey. Toby Pierce, my advisor, she's, done very similar to what I want to do. And so, they're people that I take a lot of inspiration from, but I don't hold them on a pedestal still because, when you talk with some of these people like I have on a podcast and politely to the people I've had on my podcast, they're all human. Yeah. They're nothing special. They've done some cool things, but they're still all human.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good take, I think, on that. Everybody's a human being, and everybody, I guess, is special in their own way, brings something to the table, whether you are a millionaire or you're not, really.
Yeah. And they got feelings too.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of the people I've spoken with, and I think that's, now while money, there's guys that I've spoken with, multiple guys that drive Lambos, they make tens of millions of dollars and they're worth tens of millions or whatever. And money definitely helps. I don't think we can argue that. Like you solve your problems a lot easier. Your monetary problems that you could, something wrong in your house, something wrong with your car, kid needs to go on an excursion, whatever it is, those things, they're going to be a lot easier to solve. So that does relieve a lot of stress. But at the same time, some of these guys that drive Lambos have real bad mental health still. So it still doesn't solve that problem. I think, again, we speak in such extremes. Does money equal happiness? Yes and no. Like it can, because it relieves so much stress here. But buying the car alone probably won't do it. Now, as a person that really likes cars, I can guarantee you when I sit in a car and it drives fast and it makes a lot of noise, the little boy in me goes, this is fucking epic. And that's going to bring a lot of joy and happiness. But you can't rely on that single source of joy. Like it has to come from other things as well. Yeah, for sure.
You're from Adelaide. You grew up in Adelaide. You're saying that you love Adelaide. You don't plan on moving away or whatnot. And that's interesting to me because I feel like a lot of people in their early 20s want to pack up and move from home. But there are a lot of people that love home. And, my family, for example, I'm the only one in my family that, I should say I have a younger cousin actually that also packed up, moved away. But a lot of, like, my sister loves home. She loves Vancouver, would never move away, I don't think. Do you have the itch to travel, to move away? Or, is Adelaide for you? And why do you think that is?
I just really like it for many reasons. Like I said, friends, family, the beach, the outdoors, nature. I can go to the hills, I could go to the beach, and it takes, a maximum of 30 minutes to get to either. Or the city, whatever. And I think now in the modern world where we have the access to the internet and everything and social media and whatever, I'm like, well, I can build something there being online, and I can live here. Do I want to travel and stuff? Yeah, sure, I want to see the world, but I've never really had this huge itch to want to travel and holiday too much. I like seeing the world. And when I do it, like I went to Thailand last year, I was like, that's fucking sick. That was awesome. But then I don't come back and be like, I really need a holiday. I need to get away. I'm like, because I'm so driven and loving of what I'm doing, I don't feel like I need to escape that. So I'm really grateful for that. But I still would like to holiday. I'd like to explore places and maybe, live somewhere for a period of time. But at the same time, I don't see that necessarily aligning with what I want to do business-wise. It's going to be very hard to have a team and be living in Bali in winter and trying to make that work. maybe not impossible, but here also, like I said, like the ability to get places. I can play golf on the weekends and then still go home and do things around the house and get a bit of work done. Like I can, that, like you said, takes you an hour when you're in Vancouver to get to and from work. Well, that's 2 hours that I have that you didn't have. And so to me, moving to that big city, Sydney, Melbourne, I'm like, cool. Are there some benefits? Maybe, likely, but there's also some big negatives. There's 2 hours of less work I can do in a day. Over the course of 5 days, 50 weeks of working, maybe that's like potentially 500 hours. That's a lot of work. Yeah. Or it's a lot of time I can spend on doing things that are good for me. Yeah. And I think that's probably where a lot of people, even in those big cities, the working from home, they started to really enjoy, because now they had time for the gym. Yeah. Now they have time to go for a walk that they didn't have before. For me, I hate working from home. Like I like going to a place to work, and then when I leave, that changes your mindset. But I think it's, I don't know, it might change depending on circumstances, but I like to say Adelaide shit so people don't come, so let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Adelaide sucks, don't come here.
Yeah, but do you think, I guess from a business point of view, from somebody like yourself who's in content, who's creating the app, has personal brand, do you think being in a smaller city like Adelaide puts you at a disadvantage at all? Because I think it's very common for people who are in content creation or who are creating things to, pack up and move to a larger city. I know me from Vancouver. Vancouver is that city in Canada, Vancouver, Toronto. Creators that are from Alberta or Calgary or, smaller cities often move to Vancouver. I know in America, it's usually LA or New York. And I would assume here it's the Gold Coast or Sydney or whatnot. Do you think that puts creators at a disadvantage at all? Or how do you see that?
It probably does, but like I said, I've done 4 or 5 interstate trips with the podcast this year. I'll get on a plane. I'll book a studio. Yeah. Who cares? I'll be fine. Yeah. That's much more enjoyable, and also that's cool. I get to go interstate rather than always being in the same place. I'll pack in 4 or 5 podcasts in 2 days, and there's a month's worth of podcasts in 2 days of filming, and it's 2 flights. I'm like, that's fine. I can make it work. It's, and so I think, sure, in terms of maybe collaboration, maybe that helps. I don't know, from a business point of view, like trying to get like influencers and content creators on board with a business, I don't have to be in the state that they live in. I can ask them to do specific things, and they'll be like, yep, no worries, I can do that. So I don't know. I feel like we put such limiting, or we that becomes almost an excuse as to why you can't do the thing. It's like, oh, but I don't live in Sydney. Who the fuck cares? You can still do it. And I know, Toby Pierce with the Sweat, that I think they had offices in Melbourne or something like that. It's like, but he still lived here. Sure, it probably would spend a lot of time there as well, and they're back and forth or whatever. But, I think we just put so many limiting factors on ourselves like that. And I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Or maybe the business doesn't grow to be as big as it could be if I was in Melbourne or Sydney. But I had a much greater time doing it. I got to be spending time with more friends and family along the way, and that's important too. So again, it's like, how big does this thing need to be? Or maybe, again, I don't know whether that'll change. It well and truly could. In 3 years, I might be like, fuck, I need to pack my bags and go to Melbourne for 5 years, and then I can come back. I don't know yet. Yeah. I know it's hard to, and you don't really want to have anxiety and think about those things, because once again, you just don't know what can come out in 3 years. Things can change, and the app can take off, or just your mindset can change, really. Speaking of mindset, where or how do you try and keep your mind? How do you try and work on mindset? How do you try and work on evolving all the time? And what kind of things do you like to do for personal development, I guess? Yeah, well, for a long time it was listening to podcasts, but now having a podcast of my own, I feel like I get 2 birds with 1 stone there. I have conversations with these people. I'm the one asking the questions selfishly around the things that I want to learn as well. So then that gives me a lot of knowledge in that case, and so I'm learning there as well. I do still listen to some podcasts. 1, inspiration for how people are doing the podcast and the setting. 2, because I want information on topics that I'm not going to have guests on about, whether that's politics, society, whatever it is. I don't massively go down those paths. I think they're very interesting, and here or there I'll have a conversation with someone, and like my pod is very health and fitness focused, but I might just be like, yeah, but I just want to talk to people I want to talk to, and then so someone pops up on my feed, I'm like, that's the person. Or I think talking to someone about money would be really beneficial to the 20-year-olds as well, so I'm like, yeah, it's not health and fitness, but I'll do it. So that's big. I try and read, but again, like I don't do it heaps, and sometimes I've started reading books and I'm like, no, this is not me right now. Like, and so I put that book back down, and then maybe in 18 months I pick it back up. I'm like, this is perfect. Like I recently read a marketing book, and I was like, this is perfect for where I'm at. It was really simple. It was Purple Cow by Seth Godin, and it was the best book. It was pretty quick. I read it in like 3 days, 4 days, which for me is unheard of. But that's where I know it's the right book, because I read it really quickly. Whereas if I don't read a book fast, I'm like, okay, it's probably not ticking boxes for me right now. But I don't want to get too stuck in the personal development, the self-development, trying to do all these things and forget that that's still not doing the thing again. Like the morning routine is, you can get stuck doing so much of this personal development, this prep, as it is, it's prep for what you might need, but you also learn the most from doing things. And so that's where actually I get the most self-development, is by doing something.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's, what is it, a kinesthetic learner versus, visual or auditory. Yeah, sometimes doing things for a lot of people is the way to do it, really. You can learn a lot through books, but I think of travel, for example. There are a lot of people that take a gap year or whatever and probably have a lot more knowledge than people that have spent 2 years in uni, because they've experienced, they've learnt, and they've gone and they've done things. What's something, I guess, that you have learned, and a piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is wanting to start to create something, or that is I guess in the process of starting to create something? What's something that you wish that you would have known?
That first thing's probably not going to be what you end up with. Like you're gonna keep creating iterations. You're gonna keep growing and changing. And again, everyone hears it time and time again. It's like, the best time to start is now. But it's very true, because, like I said, like I tried the drop shipping. Had I not tried that, I wouldn't have known that I didn't want to do it. So sometimes it's you in your head. You're like, I'm not sure that's going to be for me. Try it, because it's the only way to know if it's a yes or a no. And you might learn some things that come off of that you really like, or some skills that are very helpful still as well. And so, for me, say, working in New Balance when I was like 18, I didn't want to fucking do that forever. Like, I was like, God, I hate people after doing this. But what it did was gave me great communication skills when I first came to PT. Even better, because they were still shit, but they were better than they were before. And so it genuinely is. It's like this whole thing of just like, you try something and you go, I thought that was going to be what I really wanted to do with my life, and you go, it's actually not. And even then, like when something is a side hustle, but then it becomes your main thing, how you feel about it is very different. Editing videos used to be my side hustle. I used to do that in the mornings or the nights before working in a warehouse. And I used to love it, the thrill. I'd turn the lights down, have the LED strips, like one of those wanky sort of setups, and you'd be like, this is fucking epic. Now I edit videos, I'm like, oh, this is tough. Because I have to do it so much more. I don't know, that grind, it's almost that dopamine of like, chase is actually really thrilling and rewarding, but then you realize like I do also need to make some money, and so I've got to sometimes grind through some of this stuff as well. And so I think that video editing is a good example. Like maybe not everything, then probably comes the conversation of not every hobby you have has to generate an income. Not every hobby you have has to be something that could be full-time, but it might be also. You like golf, maybe you start a golf channel. Whatever it is, you like gym, start a gym channel.
It creates opportunity. I think opportunity is key in a lot of things. Like I'm a big believer when opportunity strikes, it's, instead of saying no, you can't be a yes man all the time, but you also need to sometimes say yes to things that you didn't imagine you doing or didn't imagine yourself, because again, it just changes kind of your perspective in a lot of things, your path in some things. And you can also learn a lot about yourself doing something that you didn't imagine yourself doing. You can be in a place that you didn't imagine yourself being in. You could, set yourself up. And I think a lot of people turn down opportunity because A, it's too hard, or B, it's a fair reason financially or whatnot. But sometimes I think the scariest things are the things that we need to say yes to, because again, it can massively change your life, really.
And sometimes those things that you like we tell ourselves, no, I don't want to do that thing. It's like, is that you don't want to do that thing, or society says it's not a good thing? You know, one of my clients this morning, I was talking with her, and she, you know, she's not living the life that her parents wanted her to live, or she's not living the life that her brother wanted her to live, and all these sort of things. I'm like, but who says they were right? You may also be wrong, but also, like, because you discover that and you go down that path. It's like, just because I sit here and say I didn't want to travel doesn't mean you don't want to travel. Just because I don't want to move to a big city doesn't mean you don't want to move to a big city. That's again, like, take it with a grain of salt. Like, that's not to say that I have the answers either. Just because this is what feels right for me, that might not feel right for you. One of my good mates, like, he loves to live in a big city. I go, fuck that. But he loves it, so it doesn't matter. And it's the same with career. It's the same with what you're doing with your life. Like, you know, taking the gap year, going traveling, all of that wasn't for me. Some of my friends did it, and they fucking loved it, and they don't look back at all. And like you said, you can learn so much from doing that as well. You know, I learned in different ways. I did different things. I think you have to really sit with yourself and ask that question. It's like, who's answering the question? Who's answering whether you want to do something or want to try something? Is it you, or is it the people around you? And that's sometimes you got to do things before you talk to others about it. But I also sometimes do like to tell people about things because I like that bit of pressure on myself as well. So I think that push and shove, like, don't let other people determine those risks you take as well.
Yeah. Do you catch yourself, or do you think you often worry about what other people think yourself? Because I think a lot of the time when you're in content creation, when you're putting yourself out there, you're gonna get people talking, you're gonna get good things, you're gonna get bad things, and some people really let it, you know, affect what they're doing and let it kind of stop them from doing what they're doing. And it can be a knife, I think, you know, sometimes what people say. But have you found that you have ever, you know, not done something because somebody has said something, or do you worry about those kind of things at all?
I definitely used to, especially with when I was posting the fitness content. Like, I'm not a big unit now, but I definitely was even smaller then. Yeah. And so when you're posting stuff on, you know, how to lift properly and do all these things, and someone goes, "You're a fucking twig," and you go, "Ooh, yeah, maybe I am." Like, you know, but then I'm like, I sat back, I'm like, but that doesn't mean I don't know how to teach someone how to do a deadlift. And so that I felt it, but I didn't let it stop me from doing those things. But now when I'm posting stuff online, I've gone through those comments. I'm past it. I really couldn't care less. You can say whatever you want. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I've done it. I've been called all sorts of names. I've been all those sort of things. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I filmed in public. I don't care. Like, I'm beyond that. Now, filming in public, sometimes I still may have those little nerves or whatever, but you still do it. And I don't really care about the comments that come my way anymore. Because I know that I come from a good place and from an open-minded place. And so sometimes I may even change my mind on things that I used to say. I know that I'm just trying to put out a good message. And I think that may also not always resonate or have people agree with that message. And I don't think I'm too obstructive in my views and how I approach things. You know, maybe some of my views and things that I put out, or maybe I think and speak and whatever, some people might think they are, but it's also how you approach delivering those things as well. Yeah. Are you actually open to listening to the other side? Or if someone says, like, "Oh, you're a fucking twig, like, why would I listen to you about giving deadlift advice?" I'm like, do they have a fair point? Like, and then I look back, I'm like, well, how much do I lift? I'm like, well, in that scenario, yeah, I had a pretty good deadlift, you know, you could deadlift 245. I'm like, you know, and 245 kilos for any Canadians listening, and think pounds. I'm like, God, come on, give me a break here. So, you know, like, I was like, no, I thought I've got the backing for that. But then if I was making a video on, like, you know, how to pack on size, whatever, while I may know how to do it and know how to help them and give that knowledge, I'm like, well, it probably makes sense that they're not going to listen to someone that is smaller than them. Like, I can understand that. So I can understand it. Doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. Doesn't mean there won't be people that I can help put on size. But I'm like, yeah, I get where they're coming from. And so I'd be like, that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah. Having that self-awareness is quite important, you know, because not a lot of people go down the streams that you just mentioned and they let it affect them. And there's probably a lot of people out there, unfortunately, that have created something and have stopped because of that. So I think if you take something away, it's what you just mentioned, you know, like, try and think of it a bit differently, because you're always going to have somebody say something, and you can't really let it get to you.
And sorry, on that topic as well,
Yeah.
like when someone like thinks they have, maybe they say have an opinion of you or whatever it may be, and they say, oh, but you're, or Jordan, not
Yeah.
you, me.
Yeah.
Maybe they say like, oh, he's a prick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what experiences have they had of me to make them believe that? Their one experience was me on a day where I was having a real shit day. I barely slept all week, and I told them to fuck off for some reason. It's probably right that they would assume I'm a prick. Then when they go a little bit deeper and we have a proper conversation, then they can understand who I really am. And I'm like, I apologize. It was just one of those days. Da 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 da. And they're like, oh, cool, no worries. You're not that bad. Like, I always have that. I'm like, I don't get too many people telling me I'm a shit person, thankfully. And I think that's because I do a good job of being a half decent human. But like, I always say that to people. I'm like, when someone says something about you, don't put your shield up straight away. Ask yourself, is it like, why are they thinking that? Not necessarily is it true, but why are they thinking that? And you might lead to the conclusion that maybe it also wasn't just a one moment thing that made them believe that. Maybe you are like that. Maybe you are rude. Maybe you do have things and your communication style could improve. Maybe you're not open-minded, and them saying, well, there's no point of fucking listening to you or talking to you because you don't even listen. And you go, I do listen. And you sit back and you go, actually, I hear, but I don't listen. And so I think just reflect on every opportunity you have. When someone says something to you, absorb and learn, because good and bad things, you can learn so much from them as well.
Yeah. Do you often find you reflect, or do you try and reflect on things in life ever?
I try and be very in the moment with it as much as possible while it's fresh. Maybe I go, and I recently went to Gold Coast, Sydney to record some podcasts, and then so the night there or on the plane back, I'm kind of thinking, what could I have done better next time, whatever. And so one of those was, with one of the guests, maybe we didn't wear the headphones. Is that going to affect me knowing if the audio was good or whatever? And you're learning these things. I remember for a while I used to just book Airbnbs and film in those. This is the first time I've got a studio, and I was like, oh, huge upgrade. And it was so much better. And so I'm constantly trying to reflect and learn on those different things. Much like with your training, you kind of go like, oh, how did I feel after that session? Or maybe I pushed a little bit too much. And you maybe learn that even though I felt really good in the moment, and that day I was having a great day, the next day I woke up so sore and I can't train the next day, or I'm mentally out of it, and all these sort of things. And it just reflect on the day to day, and that doesn't get too overwhelming. I don't journal, I don't write things down, but I do reflect. For me, I find like I can do that without having to write things down. I tried it for a little bit, and honestly, I'm just not consistent with it.
Yeah.
I was awful, but I really like the idea of reflecting and journaling, but I just do that mentally.
I think as long as you do it, there's no one way to reflect, and there's no one way. We need to do what works for us, I think, in life, and whether it be journaling, whether it be mentally, whether it be typing it out or whatnot. As long as you reflect, I'm a big believer in reflection, and I think it's something that is missed a lot with a lot of people, and it narrows down kind of how you see things a lot of the time. So as long as you do some reflection, whether it be once a month or once a week or whenever it be, it can be done in numerous ways, really. It's whatever works for you. Before we continue, Jordan, we have something called the vulnerability corner on the podcast. So I have questions 1 through 5 out in front of me. I'm going to get you to pick any number 1 through 5, and we will get into the vulnerability question.
Let's go 4.
4.
I feel like everyone would choose 3.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go 4.
Middle. So we've already discussed a bit of this actually today, but what things in the past have shaped the way you see things now? Maybe let's start with that.
What things in the past? Okay. I mean, every experience shapes you. I think everything you go through shapes you, whether that's friendship, relationship, business failure. You walk down the street and you see people's interactions. And I think that having that curious mindset that I do have, I think I'm able to absorb a lot of stimulus from different things and learn a lot from those different experiences. And I've taken in a lot of information, and I always try to, and I always feel like I have. I've been really good at absorbing that. I think in the past that probably came at a bit of a negative, that I would let how someone else feels, I would feel that way and feel like I've done something wrong maybe. Just because, if someone's having a bad day or if someone's not achieving their results in the gym, I'd be like, I would get upset because I would feel like I've let them down and all those sort of things. And I think so, you can be empathetic to people, but you don't have to let that be your emotions as well. And so I think there's never one moment that shapes you and makes you understand, but like friends, sometimes you go to an extreme to learn the other side. Maybe you go from one extreme to the other extreme to then find the middle or somewhere in that space. So you spend, so much time drinking and partying when you're younger, then you neglect everyone and you go just work mode, and then you're like, both of those kind of sucked a little bit. Maybe I could have some, people shit on the word balance. I'm like, yeah, we all know what it actually means. When we say balance, like it's that equilibrium. We've got something of everything there. So I think, trying to just learn and absorb every bit of information you possibly can is really important. I know for me, like I think from say past like intimate relationships as well, I think is a good point as well, is like I also learned that I'm probably really hard to be with because I do want to work a lot and I do all these sort of things. And I'm like, but that doesn't mean I necessarily have to not be that way. I just have to be wise about when I'm going out there and meeting new people or whatever it may be. So I think, that's a bit of a topic that people don't like to talk about themselves. I'm pretty open. I don't really mind. It's like I have learned a lot through past experiences there. And you go like, sure, I could be like, oh, why didn't they just fucking understand, da 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 da. I'm like, well, maybe I am also just hard to be with as well. And that's okay. Like I get that. But then that has to be something you look for in the future when you're talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And how, I guess, do you, for your past, I guess, relationships and intimate relationships and whatnot, what are some things, I guess, some specific things that you think you've learned through the past?
Definitely that. I mean, I learned that I like that whole shield that I talked about before. I said that because that was me. I would be like, nope. But also, I would always be like, I would try and communicate that and be like, look, I know I'm going to be like this, and I will try to work on that, but I know I'll put a shield up, but I will reflect later, and I will be able to say I apologize, or I could do better, or I could do this. But I think that shield up came from, say, who was us? It was a book, The Way of the Superior Man, David Dieter, I read probably a couple of months ago as well. And he put it really well, and I think it resonated with what I was feeling in that moment, was that I needed time to absorb the information that was coming to me. And while someone tells me I made them feel a certain way or whatever it was, I'm like, okay, I need to reflect on this. I'm not going to instantly be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because that's the old Jordan. I would have just been like, I want to make everyone feel good around me at the negative of myself potentially as well. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back and I'm going to reflect on that, and I'm going to think and be like, did I do the wrong thing? Could I have done better? Da, 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 da. And with that information, then I'm going to decide what I do from there. And that could be the same thing for, when someone says to me, which happens quite often, Jordan, you work too much. You need to spend more time, relax more, do this, do that more. And I'll sit back and be like, all right, let me think. Okay, do I need to? And sometimes I sit there and go, no, you're right. Let's go grab a drink. Let's go get a coffee. Let's go play some golf. Sometimes I go, no, I need to work. And that I think is really powerful as a man, when you can start to make those decisions, not be led by just what someone's telling you, but actually do what you feel is right and have an open mind to make that decision with that stimulus that you've been provided from other people or your surroundings as well.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the reflection, but also being self-aware. You need to know yourself. You need to know how you work and how you present yourself. And unless you can reflect on those things, I think it's quite hard to break that barrier and break that wall, because people can be quite stubborn, I think, sometimes. And I think to fight that wall and break that wall, it comes back down to reflection, really. And it sounds like you have those skills and you have that, that good head on your shoulders, which is quite difficult. And I think for some people, they don't, it takes time, I think, to do that, really, and to get that.
And there's always an element of like, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Like if things are awful, now there's obviously, there's times where things are, you go, no, genuinely, this is not me. Like, and that could be a business relationship. It could be an intimate relationship, it could be a friendship, it could be an encounter on the street or a bit of road rage, whatever it is. There's definitely two parties at play there. Sometimes it is definitely one that has led the situation into turning into what it is. But then there's always a reflection point where you can sit on. And so, whether that's like, one of my... a guy I spoke with, he owns multiple hotels, does really well for himself, and he got stuck in this situation with his relationship. He wanted to keep growing his business at like 55. He got a bit older, and his wife had the opposite. She was like, I want to retire and relax now. And he had those thoughts. He sat there, he thought with it, and he made the decision. He's like, I can't do that. And then so they parted ways. And so, like in that moment, that's not necessarily that either of them have done the wrong thing, but he stood true to his purpose and himself, and he's very content with that decision. And there we are. Like it's, there's two people involved in a lot of situations. Doesn't mean there's right or wrong either necessarily.
Yeah, no, that's, again, it's a very good way to look at things, and you kind of have to have that self-awareness, and it takes some time to build those skills, but again, it takes two to tango, like you were just saying. Now, Jordan, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Where can people, I guess, work with you? Do you want to plug anything in there?
Yeah, I mean, just normal socials, Jordan Checker or the Jordan Checker podcast if you're wanting to listen to those as well. Jordan Checker is the most social platform, the Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all those sort of things. And then the podcast, the Jordan Checker podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all those sort of things as well. And yeah, if people are looking for online coaching, I still do some of that stuff as well. Just feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. And look out for the app, it's coming. So hopefully if you need some help with your nutrition and getting in shape for summer or whatever it may be, just improving your health generally, hopefully we'll be able to help.
Yeah, and that'll all be in the show notes, everybody. So definitely go check that out in the show notes, and you can follow Jordan. And I'm assuming I think the app has an Instagram page as well.
It does, yeah.
So you can follow that as well. Thank you so much, Jordan, for being on the show today. This was quite a good chat, I think, and I think you brought a lot to the table. Thank you.
No, thank you. I had a lot of fun. It was really cool. Like I said, it was good to have a conversation like this as well, and you reflect on those things, and in the moment of, like, even right now I'm sitting there and I'm like thinking about what I said. I'm like, can I improve on some of these things and be like, okay, have I got some lessons for myself?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you verbalize things and you go, like I said, putting the wall up. I'm not the best at it, but sometimes I say those things so I can do it myself as well and try and improve. So yeah. By no means perfect, but I appreciate it.
But you did quite well, I think. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Cheers.
Cheers. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Thank you, Jordan, once again for coming on the show. If you want to follow Jordan, you can follow all of his links in the show notes below once again. So be sure to check all of that out. Thank you all for listening. I will talk to you in the next episode.